Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Welcome to the Joys of Painting with Mr. House. For today's lesson, you're going to watch me paint in the style of one Mr. Bob Ross. So today is dedicated to Mr. Ross. We'll be painting together in a video format so you can paint along at home or you can just watch and enjoy as we make a picture together. Alright, come with me. Let's get started. So we've got our paint here all set up for us. Doesn't that look good? Looks like a lot of fun on that paint palette. We're going to go ahead and start putting paint to our canvas. All the paint colors will be going across your screen so you can follow along at home. We're going to start by putting a nice layer of blue all across the top. We've got this nice sky blue. We're going to add that to our painting right here on top. And we want to start at the top and sort of work our brush down so we can see that it fades out. It fades out into the painting. So there, we're going to cover up this whole area. Let's get some more white in there. So Bob Ross, the painter, recorded a television show called The Joys of Painting from 1983 until 1994. For you mathematicians out there, that means he painted on television for 11 years for people to watch. And in those 11 years, Bob Ross says that not many people actually painted along with him. They just enjoyed watching the show. And you would think maybe Bob Ross would get a little upset about that, but he just happy that people were watching the show and enjoying it. So there we've got our blue color fading down into our painting. So you can see it gets lighter and lighter as it moves down. Alright. So we're going to set that large brush aside because I think we're done with that for right now. We're going to move on to a slightly smaller brush. Still the hard edge. We want a flat side to our brush for this. And we're going to start by painting some mountains here in the background. So if we have a brush with rectangular sides, we're able to make really sharp corners, which we want for something like mountains. Mountains have nice sharp corners at the top of them. So there we can see our brown color for the tops of our nice mountains. Those look tall. So our mountains are going to go all the way across our painting here. Maybe we have a slightly smaller mountain there. I'll tell you what though, I like to have one really big mountain so that we can see some different sizes of those natural shapes. Wow. So we're going to keep adding some brown here, and just like we did with the sky, we're going to fade it out as it moves down. We're just going to fade it out and fade it out. And it'll naturally fade as you have less paint on the paintbrush. So there we're just going to fade it on out as it goes down. I already have a nice layer of white underneath all my other paint. So there's already one layer of paint underneath here. So that helps us fade things out as it moves downward. Don't forget to always have a nice cup of water with you when you're painting. It's good to add to the paint to get different textures in there. Acrylic paint, which we're using now, is water soluble, which means it breaks down in water. So when we have things like oil paint, those are oil soluble, so they only break down in oil. Those take a long time to dry though, so be patient. Our acrylic friends here dry pretty quick. You don't have to wait long for acrylic paint to dry, which is nice for what we're doing today. So there we're going to fade it out all the way across. We want to see nice light brown lines as it comes down. Wow. Bob Ross, the painter, actually started his adult life not as a painter, but he worked in the Air Force. He was actually a medic in the Air Force, which means his career of helping people and looking out for people started long before he started painting. He was helping people even in the Air Force. It was his career in the Air Force, though, that led him to painting. Because as you can imagine, in the Air Force, you don't have a lot of time to yourself for things like hobbies or extracurricular things. So he needed to develop a style of painting that went very quick. So his style of painting that you can see within his television show is that same style perfected over those 11 years. I think we're pretty good on those mountains. So next we're going to move down. I'm going to put a little water in my brush, but I'm going to use that same exact brush. I like that brown color in there. And we're going to move on to some grass. Now if you know, grass is on top of dirt, so that brown color in there is alright with us. We like to see a little dirt poke through, right? So here we're going to lay down some nice neutral green. Now what does Mr. House mean by neutral green? Well, neutral green is a nice green tone that's not too light, not too dark. So we like to lay it all over here, and we're going to work in layers. So what that means is after we put down this first green coat, we're going to add some other layers to our grass. Grass isn't all just one color, right? So we want to continue on making all those different colors within our grass. So unlike our mountain and our sky, we want to try to have this green part about as even as we can, right? We don't want a lot of fading in or out. We want to have a nice, rich, neutral green color. So here I'll start at the bottom, and we'll work our way up, all the way up. We're going to get as much green as we can here for this whole front area. If you need to mix more paint, go ahead and mix some more. It's not easy having every color of the rainbow, so if we have to mix, we can always mix our colors. What colors mix into green? That's right, yellow and blue. So when we mix our yellow and blue, we get our nice green color here. That green color's going on great. We want to cover the whole bottom of our painting so that we can have some grass here. I tell you what we're going to try to do is underneath our hills here, we're going to have some mountains. So our grassy mountains, our rolling hills here, we're going to go right underneath our sharp Rocky Mountains. There we go. It's looking great. And now sometimes, when you look at landscapes like this, sometimes these mountains are so tall that you can actually see fog building up at the bottom. So right down here where we fade it out, it's almost like a layer of fog. It's just down there trying to hug our mountains. So we'll finish up our green here. Almost done. Go ahead and mix some more. Mix and paint, one of my favorites. Now I've got underneath me here next to my water an old shirt I'm using as a rag. I know a lot of people are having a hard time finding paper products in stores these days, so if you've got an old shirt, that'll work A-OK. We'll just use that as our rag to wipe off some old paint. Oh wow, we've got a lot of nice green in there. Let's finish up with this green, and then we can can move on to our next colors. Now, I'd like to imagine here in our landscape, maybe the sun is right behind us, so it's going to hit some of this grass to make it a little lighter. So how can we make grass lighter, you ask? Well, one easy way is while our paint is still wet, I'm going to get some yellow here on my brush, and I'm just going to add some yellow straight into it. Straight into it. So that yellow is going to start to mix with all my green that I already have down. So it's going to start pretty yellow towards us, but as it moves back, just like we did with the sky, just like we did with the mountains, it's going to get lighter and lighter. Lighter and lighter. So we can have some different tones to our grass. We're going to get some of that same brown that we used for our mountains, and using our same brush, we're just going to start mixing it into our wet paint. And we're going to mix it in and start to move backwards for a little trail. So if we're looking at this trail up front here, and it moves back, or is it going to get bigger or smaller as it moves back? That's right, it's going to get smaller as it moves back. So we're going to start with a big brown area here up front, and it's just going to wind its way back and back and back until we can't even see it anymore. So there we've got our nice path. It looks like it was stomped down by years of explorers, just natural dirt, until it goes all the way into nothing. That looks good. Now I'm going to switch brushes. So I'm going to put my square brush away, and I'm going to grab a nice round brush. So what I'm going to do with my round brush is I'm going to get some of that same brown that we just used. We used for the mountains, that we used for our trail. I'm going to use that same light brown, only now I'm going to do a vertical line here at the end. Who can guess what this is going to be? Well, if you guessed a tree, you got it, my friends. So here we're going to draw just the stem of a tree. And what we want to do is have it bigger here at the bottom, and as it goes up, it's going to get smaller and smaller. Right? Trees have big roots and very small tops where all the branches build up to. It would look pretty weird if that was opposite, if they had large tops but small roots. Would barely be able to stand. So there we're going to have the inside of our tree. So we've got our happy little tree here started. But you know, any happy little tree isn't its happiest until that tree has a friend. So we're going to do another tree over here the same way. So remember, it's smaller at the top and bigger at the bottom. So small at the top, bigger at the bottom. And there we can just add it right in. You can start to see the way our browns are mixing with our greens to get all those beautiful natural colors. Well, I think that's it for my round brush. We're going to pack that away. We're going to bring out our final brush. Now this brush is tons of fun. This is a fan brush. So this brush starts small and it grows bigger on the outside. So we're going to use this small fan brush, just put a little paint on it, not too much. And we're going to start at the top and move our way down. So these trees get bigger and bigger as they move down. So there we're adding in a brown color, just a little, because we want these to look like branches. We want these to look like maybe some brown leaves, the ones that don't get as much sunlight as some of the others. So we start small, and by the time we reach right around here towards the bottom, we want that tree to reach its biggest point. So we're just going back and forth really quick. Don't overdo these branches. It doesn't have to be a lot. We can always add more, but we can't take them away. So here we're going to start on the other side. Little branches up top, and they get bigger and bigger as they move down. Wow, it's a lot of good branches in there. Now we can have two tree friends. Even in nature, we always like a good friend. And for weeks like this, where we're asked to stay inside, sometimes all you can ask for is just a friend. Alright, we're going to quick wash our brush out. Now Bob Ross was pretty famous for a saying. He would smack his brushes on the side of his easel, and he would say he was getting the devil out of his brush. But we're working in Mr. House's home studio, so we're not going to go beating paint around everywhere. So the devil might have to stay in our brushes today. We're going to get a little green here again. Only now, let's use our lighter green. Let's start with a nice lighter color. Get a little white in our green. Nice mint sort of color. Yeah, that's going to be a nice tree color. Going right over the top with just a little paint. We're going to get some paint out of our brush here. Got a little too much. We don't want to add too much. We're going to start here just over the brown we already added. And remember, we're going to follow that same pattern. Big on the top, small on the top, big on the bottom. Remember, we don't want those upside down trees. Small at the top, bigger at the bottom. And these fan brushes do an excellent job of very quickly putting down that paint in these nice thin lines that we want. So there we're just going back and forth, again, back and forth, small brush strokes right over the top. And it's starting to mix beautifully with that brown, which is exactly what we want. And if your colors mix in a way that you didn't expect, that's okay. There's no mistakes here, just happy accidents. So there, we'll finish up our tree. Ooh, let's get some nice branches in there. Yeah, going all the way out. So that's our first tree. Let's go ahead and get some of that same mint green for our friend over here. And let's add that on the same way. There we go, right on top. Right on top. You can see the way that it goes right over our branches here. But you can still see part of them underneath, just like a real tree. You can see all those different layers. Maybe there's some critters inside of that tree. You see a nice squirrel or a bird singing a beautiful song. All kinds of things in there. So let's go ahead and finish up our tree here. Nice quick brush strokes. A little bit of paint. A little bit of paint. Alright. And you know what? I love that yellow on the green so much. I think we're going to try some in our trees as well. Because if the sun's behind us, sides of these trees are going to get hit by light too. And we're going to try a little dabbing technique where we put down just a little bit of paint so it looks like the sun is just resting right on top of those branches. Beautiful. Let's do the same thing to our friend over here. Just a little. Remember, we don't want to overdo it. And there we have it. We have our sky, our mountains, our nice rolling hills, a little path for us to walk on, and two trees going around the outside. Now, a famous painting technique that we employed here, we call framing. So you can see the two trees at the edges of our canvas. Almost make it as though there's a frame on the outside. Next time you're watching a movie or TV show, look for framing. Our friends in Hollywood like to borrow that skill. We also have our soft and our hard edges. Now, my high school friends have already talked about soft and hard edges, but us in middle school may have not heard of those phrases before. So a soft edge was something like we did in the sky, where it faded down into the white areas. But when we started our mountains, you can see that's a very hard edge, the way it goes from our blue colors to our brown colors. So in painting, we like to use both of those techniques, soft and hard edges. And that way we can come up with a full painting like we have today. Thank you for following along, friends. At home, try to paint something along like this. If you don't have paint, well, I understand. Not all of us have a bunch of paint sitting around, easels, everything set up for us. So if you have color pencils, markers, or anything really that you can start to express your ideas onto paper, onto canvas, onto anything, go ahead and try. We'd like to see what you come up with, and remember, there's no mistakes. There's just happy accidents. Thanks, friends. Have a good weekend and an even better spring break. Welcome to the Joys of Painting with Mr. House. We're going to be painting on our canvas today with acrylic paint, just like we use in class. Only today, you get to watch a video of me. That's terrible. I hate it. I hate everything.